Nobody in the courtroom believed Christine would take the stand so soon. She had sat through the opening arguments silently, her expression unreadable, her binder untouched, her eyes fixed forward like a soldier waiting for deployment. Then the judge asked serenely, "Is there something you want to say before we proceed?" That is when everything went awry. Christine slowly, measured, controlled, and spoke a paltry 7 words that cut the room like glass, shattering on marble. "He stole money from our daughter's surgery." The air froze. Even the bailiff stopped moving. Cody's head jerked toward her, his neck muscles snapping tight. "That's a lie," he barked. But Christine didn't flinch. She calmly reached for a slim leather folder, worn, frayed at the edges, held too tightly for too long. "Your Honor," she said evenly, "I'd like to submit Exhibit A." She spoke in a composed tone, but Cody's leg began to jump wildly underneath the table, as if his frame already knew what was to come. The courtroom was not just silent now, it was waiting with bated breath. Christine took a step forward and placed the folder on the judge's desk. There was a loan envelope within, and in that envelope, proof, a printout of a wire transfer 6 weeks before their daughter Isabel's spinal surgery in 2020. The account showed $18,450 taken from the family's medical fund and sent instead to a contractor for Coyote development phase 3. That one contractor, a landscaping company out of Flagstaff that had done nothing but work on Robin's land. Christine's voice trembled only once, but it wasn't fear. "He told me," she whispered, "that we couldn't afford Isabel's pre-op, that we had to wait for TLC to pay us back. And then I found this." Cody grumbled, but Christine didn't even look at him. She looked straight at the judge. "That was when I stopped covering for him, because if he'd move money so easily for dirt and sod, but not for the backbone of his daughter, then what else was he going to bury?" The judge tapped his pen. "Do you deny this transfer, Mr. Brown?" Cody sprang to his feet, fury coursing through him. "That was a critical property improvement," he thundered, veins pulsating at his temples. "This is a smear campaign from an angry ex-wife." The judge didn't even blink. "That angry ex-wife has bank records," he replied unruffled. "You have opinions." Christine sat back down, clawing at the edge of her binder with her fingers. Cody sat, as well, but not like a man struggling to claim his name, more like one bracing for the next blow, because everybody in that courtroom knew it wasn't over. It was only just beginning. The air grew heavy, pressing upon the walls, heavy and suffocating. You could feel the pressure creeping over the floor like a slow tide rising up about everyone's ankles. At the heart of it was Robin, immobilized but twitching unwillingly, her fingers laboring over the hem of her shirt, her eyes flicking between Cody and the folder now gripped in the judge's fist. She had not been expecting this. None of them had. Not this soon, not this painfully. Christine was not simply accusing Cody of embezzlement. She was laying the groundwork for something far more evil, something illegal. The clerk handed the judge the documents, transfer slips, account labels, timestamps. Christine hadn't told a lie. She'd built a case. Then, suddenly, she produced a thicker binder, programmed, color-coded, and icy precise. On top was written 2020 TFA Medical Fund. This, she turned the binder around, addressing the court, is the March 2020 Family Medical Account Balance, $4,203. She turned another page. And this, she continued, is the network's balance 2 days before Isabel's pre-op tests, $1,284. The number floated there like a hammer suspended over a nail. Christine gave everybody enough time to feel its weight. "Then," she said, "Cody told me we'd have to rely on the network's coverage because we couldn't pay out of pocket." Her tone didn't change, but the fire in her eyes told a different story. Cody jumped in again, cracking voice. "What she's not telling you," he started, "is that we owned a number of properties to—" "Enough," barked the judge. "Both parties will wait to be heard before speaking." The room fell silent again, but this time the silence was deafening. Robin's face shifted, no longer fearful now, but instead calculating. Panic it was not. Recognition was what it was. She knew this, all the talk, all the explanations. Christine did too. "This isn't about revenge," Christine said softly. "This is about truth, and how long everyone chose to be quiet." Robin lowered her eyes, folding her trembling hands in her lap. Cody muttered under his breath about lies and twisting words, but even he didn't sound convinced. The binder was still open, a paper and digitized number weapon, and Christine hadn't even reached the next tab. She shut it slowly and allowed the silence to be the overwhelming presence. That silence did more damage than any accusation ever could, because Cody no longer seemed so much a wrongly accused man, and so much like one who had just caught sight of how much evidence she still possessed. Christine extended her hand and touched the next tab. 2019 FA-TLC payments. "I never requested our full payment deal," she said matter-of-factly, "but one arrived anyway." She shoved over another spare folder. "This is from TLC's legal department after my attorney requested it. It outlines the season 14 payments." She made him squirm just long enough. "One check," she clarified. 5 equal payments, filed into the Browns' shared account. Cody's jaw came down in a white line. The judge leaned forward, scanning the papers. "Every wife," Christine continued, "was guaranteed we'd receive $114,000 for that year. I received $76,000. And when I asked why, I was told it was due to production reductions and renegotiated back-end profits." She looked at Cody. "Only there weren't any renegotiations, were there?" Cody looked anywhere but at her, to the floor, the walls, even the ceiling, as though for a version of the truth that could get him out of this. Christine wasn't having it. She pointed to the signatures in the payment ledger, and with one motion, the final veneer of his defense began to unravel. Christine didn't rush. Her composure was oppressive. She slapped the paper twice, the sound echoing in the courtroom. 3 of the 5 payments were put into the family general account, she informed them. The other 2, she tapped lightly on the page, were put into private accounts. A collective gasp came from the rear of the room. "Those accounts," she continued, "are Robin's." Everyone's eyes were on Robin. Her body stiffened, her lips pressed tight, enough to form a refusal that never came. Christine's voice shook ever so slightly for the first time. "We needed that money," she burst out, her words cracking with emotion. "Not for extravagance, not for property, for hospital bills, for groceries, for dignity." Cody sprang to his feet immediately, his tone sharp and furious. "Those accounts were opened for tax reasons," he snarled. "Robin's credit was better. It was a survival issue." The judge moved forward, his expression icy. "If that's the case, Mr. Brown, then why were those accounts never disclosed in your sworn financial affidavits?" Cody remained transfixed. Christine's voice fell, her tone now razor-sharp. "Because living wasn't on his agenda," she said softly. "Control was. When you control the money, you control the silence, and when you defy the money, you become the enemy." She turned to Robin, her gaze piercing. "You said you didn't know, but your name was on the accounts, so tell us, what did you think was happening?" Robin's voice cracked. I never questioned the deposits. Cody handled it." The judge's brow flew up. "You're standing before me, swearing on your honor that you accepted 5-figure wire transfers and never questioned their origin or purpose." Robin's lips trembled. "He said it was part of the restructuring." Christine moved in closer. Was that restructuring ever documented, notarized, or even discussed with the other wives? The ensuing silence was painful. Christine closed the folder softly. She did not need to scream. The silence was on her side. Cody's jaw clenched so hard you could see the muscles tremble beneath his skin. The judge cleared his throat again. "Mrs. Brown," he said, "what is the next tab?" Christine did not answer. She simply turned the page. 2018 FA Real Estate Trusts. And that was when the storm really began. The documents crackled softly as she worked through them, but there was nothing soft in what followed. 2018, she said slowly, tasting something bitter. That's the year I stopped asking questions. Not because I trusted him, but because I learned that asking made things worse. She held up a photocopy of a version of the law. This is a property trust agreement, typed, dated, unsigned. But here, she pointed to the line at the bottom of the second page, the sole beneficiary, Robin Brown. There was a quiet buzz in the courtroom. Christine placed the paper on the table with deliberate care, as if setting down a loaded pistol. "I found this draft in an exposed Dropbox folder that Cody had left behind by mistake," she said. "The next day, I couldn't access that account." She spoke to the judge. "Your Honour, I was never informed of this trust. I wasn't contacted. Neither was Janelle. Neither was Mary." Cody's voice grew shrill with desperation as he leaned forward. "It was never filed," he exclaimed. "It was only a draft. I told you that, Christine." She smiled calmly. "Yes," she replied. "You said I was paranoid. You said it was for consolidation. Then you reset all the passwords." The judge gestured towards Cody. "Was this document ever shown to the other wives before this hearing?" Cody said nothing. His silence was louder than a denial. Finally, he growled, "She's turning paperwork into a conspiracy." Christine didn't even glance at him. She flipped over another page. "And yet," she continued, "in early 2019, a house in Flagstaff was purchased outright. The funds were drawn from an account that had originally been opened in the name of the family trust, now revoked." She flipped another page. "The deed," she continued, "was placed in Robin's name." She held up a printed screenshot, the county assessor's seal at the bottom. "He moved the money," she breathed. "He moved the paperwork, and then he redid the walls so one wife had keys." The courtroom did not gasp. It strained, as if seeing how deep the cut was. Robin confronted Cody, her face ashen and trembling. "You said that the title would just be in my name temporarily." "It was temporary," Cody retorted with a snap. Christine moved forward. "Until when, Cody?" she asked coldly. "Until you were through with pretending the rest of us didn't exist." The judge's eyes had narrowed. "Mr. Brown, did you ever lawfully fulfill this trust agreement?" "No," Cody replied stiffly. "And so," the judge continued, "why were these accounts maintained in a joint account in the name Private Favourin'?" Cody stared at the ground. The silence that followed hung there like a held breath. Christine slowly sat down, her binder still open. "I asked to be treated like a wife," she whispered, "and I was told I was asking for too much. But somehow, someone else got everything I was told did not exist." The judge leaned back in his chair. "We'll order a deed verification and a full electronic chain of title review," he declared. "If what you're saying is true, Mrs. Brown, this may extend far beyond a civil case." Cody's head dropped, his confidence gone. And Robin, she covered her face, not to hide her tears, but to hide from the truth. By then the court was totally spellbound. For each word Christine said, it was as if she had punched. Even the court clerk had stopped typing. Christine again delved into her binder, this time slowly, as if the next piece of paper bore more meaning than paper ever could. She pulled out a printed string of emails, 6 pages. The subject title was Internal Family Financial Planning, FA Do Not Share. Christine remained silent. She passed it to the judge and looked at Cody. "You said it was for our protection," she whispered, "but not once did you say this." The judge pushed his glasses up and continued to read. "If we pay out via Robin first, nobody is any the wiser. Christine no longer reviews the logs, and Janelle's got her business books to take care of." He looked up gradually. "Mr. Brown, can you explain this?" Cody reddened. "That email is being taken out of context," he snapped. Christine didn't waste time. "Then let's set it in context," she snapped, sliding out the entire email thread. She pointed to Robin's reply. "Is Christine certain she won't find this out? I don't like this." And then to Cody's reply, "She still believes we're broke. Just go along with the scheme." Robin slumped forward, voice cracking. It was on taxes. It was a tactic." The judge's voice hardened. "That your assertion in this email, Mrs. Brown?" Robin remained silent. She just cowered back, squirming and quiet. Christine spoke to the judge, her tone calm again. "That email came 3 days before we were told our property taxes hadn't cleared, and a week before." She paused, long enough for all of them to feel the tension strangle the air. "1 week before $26,000 went missing from our family account." Christine picked up the next page and pointed to the figure typed in black. "That transfer," she said, "was made from the family account to pay off a Flagstaff mortgage." She held the record up to the judge. "A mortgage," she breathed, "I knew nothing about." Then her eyes met the judge's, her voice becoming rough, her tones unwavering. "Worse than betrayal," she asked, "is betrayal masquerading as protection?" The judge turned the pages of the email printout again. His eyes stopped on a single line. Cody had written, "Mary's off the radar. Christine's still grieving. We're good for another quarter." He placed the document down slowly. "Grieving?" the judge repeated. Christine swallowed hard. "That was the year my father passed away," she said quietly. "I took 2 months away from everything." Robin slapped her hand over her mouth. Cody rubbed his temples as if it were a recent headache, but everybody in the courtroom knew it wasn't. The judge leaned back in his chair, his tone firm. "Mr. Brown, this court will now look at not just your financial reports, but at your communication also. That means any messages which could show hiding of marital assets or misrepresentation of community property." A shiver of fear ran through the courtroom. People leaned forward, their eyes wide. The silence was electric, like air before a thunderstorm. Christine didn't move. She glared at her binder, at the next tab in sequence. The heading read, 2017, Fake Counseling and Control. She hesitated, her fingers inches away. She knew exactly what was about to come. The receipts, the manipulation, the evidence that this wasn't merely financial fraud, it was emotional engineering. The room held its collective breath. Christine opened the tab hesitantly. "This," she held up a piece of paper, "is a receipt for 3 sessions of therapy Cody and I did in early 2017, paid on the family card." She paused. "Nothing unusual, except I looked at the dates." Christine unfolded her phone statements and held them overhead. On 2 of those days, Cody claimed he cancelled the sessions, but he went anyway. The judge's eyebrow went up. "With anyone?" Christine nodded once. "No," she said, "with Robin." The courtroom went still. She flipped the next page, a counselling report, redacted but still readable enough. The judge's face darkened as he read out the scribbled notes. Clients spoke of how to engage co-wives with phased autonomy, suggested promoting fiscal unity as evidence of stability and not overlordship, suggested establishing trust in order to reduce abandonment fear with wife number 3. The judge's eyebrow went up. "Wife number 3? Yes, that would be you, Mrs. Brown." Christine nodded. "Yes, Your Honour." "He used therapy as a weapon," she replied matter-of-factly. "He didn't go to heal. He went to learn how to shut me up." Cody sprang out of his chair. "This is outrageous," he thundered. "Therapy is confidential." Christine did not blink. "So why?" she asked. "Was it billed on our shared medical account?" She waved another page, a receipt for an email sent from the therapist's office. "And why is Robin's name here, under family restructuring session?" Robin tried to speak, but her voice betrayed her. "It was indescribable," she breathed. "He said that it was just to make things easier." Christine's voice trembled, but only with held anger. He did not want peace, she said. He wanted obedience, and he paid professionals to teach him how to get it. The judge leaned forward. Mr. Brown, he said, were these counseling sessions noted as part of your family's medical expenses? Cody's words stumbled. They were family sessions for the benefit of all. Then why, Christine went on, was there only one wife included? He was unable to reply. The next silence was stifling. Undefined, Christine whispered. That's what he used to say. Undefined. The word hung in the air, a curse, because the truth was reflected in all their faces. It was the way Janelle stared blankly in front of her, eyes vacant. It was the way Mary sat forward in her seat, realization coming too late. It was how Robin silently mouthed to herself, he said it was to help us, and couldn't go on. The ensuing silence said it all. Christine turned over another page. This one, not a receipt, but a scanned journal entry in her own handwriting. The judge leaned further in as she read aloud. I think today was the day I stopped being a wife, but a wall. He's learning how to erase me, legally. Not a word. The judge did not need to. Truth had already taken over the room. Christine then reached out to the next tab. 2016 FA debt transfers. Her hands no longer shook. She was in charge now. The courtroom was not silent. It was transfixed. Every person in the audience knew that they were seeing something monumental. This section, Christine began, documents in-house bank activity from March through December 2016. She laid a series of color-coded books on the evidence table. 4 family credit cards were used, she continued. Each card paid debt into 3 new accounts, all in Robin's legal name. She addressed Cody. He told us it was a short-term loan, a way of balancing family interest. We all agreed to lend, but there's no written record of that agreement. She pointed to the figures emphasized. Janelle and I accumulated $48,000 in transfer debt. Mary accumulated $19,000. Robin, 0. The judge studied the records closely. And you didn't find out about this until then? Christine shook her head. We were informed that we were all helping one another through a passing famine, she said. But the truth, some of us were buying food on credit and others were buying up real estate holdings. Cody sprang to his feet again, his voice cracking. I swore to pay it back. You agreed to it. Christine gazed at him directly. I told you it was fine, she said, because you made me believe we were family. You promised me my turn would come. She spoke to the judge. My turn never came. From the back of the courtroom, a trembling voice wailed. It was Janelle. He told me the same thing, she testified, standing up, that all the wives would get turns being the one who was in financial priority. Her voice broke. But somehow it always led back to Robin. Christine took slow breaths. Debt, she sighed, was how he bought loyalty. The room was still again, no shouting, no movement, only the cold, bitter truth of what had been said. He gave us responsibility, Christine whispered, but no authority. He gave us debt, but no voice. And when we complained, she let the words dangle. She closed the binder softly. We were told that the cost of peace was silence. Christine's words cut into the silence like a blade. When we questioned him about it, she said, we were told that we weren't team players. The judge carefully ran his fingers up and down the figures on the page. His brow wrinkled. These are substantial sums, Mr. Brown, he said quietly, and they appear to have been put together without the aid of any written contract. That's an extremely serious issue legally. Cody bristled. It was all done verbally, he snapped. We're a plural family, not a corporation. Christine sat up in her chair. But you operated it like one, Cody, she said. You acted like a CEO with one member on the board. The rest of us were just volunteer employees. The gallery hummed. Everyone's attention was on her now. She then turned a page that few were expecting. It was a screenshot, an email notification in November 2016. This, she whispered, was the moment I felt like I wasn't just being ignored. I was being erased. The email informed her of an attempt to delete her name from a joint account. Christine's voice trembled slightly. When I confronted him that night, he said it was a bug, she replied. The password was changed the next morning, permanently. Robin shifted uncomfortably in her chair. Cody clenched his jaw so tightly the muscles quivered beneath his skin. Christine didn't even blink. She turned over another page. The tab read, 2015, the missing marriage certificate. And suddenly the silence wasn't tense. It was heavy with dread. The air became thick. Even the judge leaned forward. Every person in that courtroom knew this was the turning point. Christine spoke directly to the judge. Years, everyone asked who was legally married, who was spiritually married, but this... She held a yellowed sheet of paper out before the judge. This is not rumor. She placed it on the judge's desk. This, she told us, is the official document of Cody's annulment of his legal marriage to Mary, filed in 2014, finalized early 2015. The room fell silent. Even the clicking of cameras ceased. What none of us knew, Christine continued, was what came next. She produced a second sheet of paper, new, crisp, incontrovertible. 2 weeks later, she explained, Cody filed for legal marriage to Robin. Gasps echoed in the courtroom. Robin flushed. The lawyer told us to do that, she stammered. It was for custody, just to protect my children. Christine looked at her, not with rage, but with fatigued serenity. Why not tell us then? She whispered. Why not tell us the family had been legally rearranged behind closed doors? She held up a third page, an email on a day subsequent to the marriage filing. It replied, There's no need to bring the others into this paperwork. Let's keep it low-key. The judge raised an eyebrow. So the rest of the family found out when the episode came on? Christine nodded. We found out about our own erasure on national TV. Cody slammed his hand on the table. That was never meant to hurt anyone, he thundered. It was about protection, perseverance for God's sake. Christine's face became icy. You did not provide for us, she said. You provided for yourself. She scowled at him. Wedding is not a matter of forms. It's a matter of ranking. And on that day, you taught us who mattered and who did not. Mary's eyes filled with tears. Janelle closed hers. Robin looked as though she was about to faint. But Christine stood firm, her voice unfluctuating as steel. She touched the final paper. This, she told him, is a notarized affidavit from the state office. It says that as of 2015, the only legally acknowledged spouse of Cody Brown is Robin Brown. The judge leaned back, visibly shocked. This changes the whole nature of your case, he told him carefully. Cody laughed harshly. What case? He mocked. She wasn't even legally married to me. Christine didn't flinch. No, she said calmly. But I was a legal liability, signed loans, paid taxes, managed assets. So either I was your legal business partner, or you indulged years of money fraud by hiring me out without legal requirement. The door swung wide open. The bailiff froze in mid-step. The clerk's fingers remained poised on the keyboard. And Cody. He lay back, speechless for the first time. Christine's eyes lifted. I was your wife, she whispered, when you needed a co-signer, not when you made your vows. The judge inhaled sharply. Court will reconvene in 20 minutes, he declared. Counsel, prepare for evidentiary adjustment. But there was more that Christine had to say. Her hand was across the next tab. 2014, the incident. Cody stiffened his shoulders. He knew what that accomplished. This was no longer about money. This was about memory. The courtroom light was unchanged, but somehow the room was darker. Christine opened the tab. No dollar signs, no contracts, no deals. only silence and pain. Her voice was softer, trembling. "I didn't mean to put this in," she said, "but this is where it really fell apart." She sent one page forward. It was not a document of law. It was a journal entry, enlarged and notarized for testimony. The judge read in silence. It said, "He slammed the door so hard it cracked the frame. I held Truly as she cried for 20 minutes. Cody's head jerked upright. "That is not what happened," he shouted. "I never struck her." Christine interrupted him calmly. "You didn't strike us," she said. "You didn't need to. Your anger struck for you." The courtroom fell silent. Cameras stopped flashing. Breathing almost was too audible. Christine went on. "He was angry because I spoke with the producer without permission. It was a minor scheduling conflict, nothing more. But when he got home and discovered, he blew up." Her hands trembled as she reached for a photo. It was of a broken doorframe. "He told me afterwards he wasn't angry with me," she said to the judge, her voice cracking. "He said it was the pressure, the cameras, the expectation, but it hadn't happened before. Not the first time anyway, just the first time I had proof." The judge leaned forward, his eyes kind. "Was this ever reported?" he asked. Christine shook her head. "Who would I report to?" she asked. "The man who had the money? The producers who required the fantasy?" Her words strike with the weight of a hammer. "We were taught that to speak was betrayal," she said. "That peace was our responsibility, even when peace meant walking barefoot on broken glass." In the gallery, Robin's whisper broke the silence. "I didn't know," she whispered. "You never told me." Christine stood up to her, not in spite, but in sorrow. "I tried," she whispered. "You told me to pray harder." Her voice trembled, but she didn't cry. "Some wounds," she said, "don't bleed, but they never stop hurting." Christine took a deep breath. "Behold, some wounds never bleed," she breathed, "but bruise the beat of your life. They change the way you breathe, the way you speak, even the way you apologize for being. They leave you with the marks of memory, if not the proof on your body." She handed the judge one sheet of paper, a therapy intake form 6 months after the incident. A hasty note had been written at the top. "Client exhibits chronic emotional repression secondary to household conflict." Christine looked down. "That's when I realized I wasn't just heartbroken," she explained. "I'd been conditioned." Cody jumped up from his chair, pacing back and forth. "This is a hit piece," he growled. "It's irrelevant. She's making it personal." Christine's voice finally cracked, hard even and unshakable. "Personal," she retorted. "You stole our lives and made plot lines of them and had the audacity to label it love." The judge's tone turned icy. "Mr. Brown, your behavior is being videotaped. Any further outbursts and you will be removed from this courtroom." Cody was standing there, trying to catch his breath. Christine sat back down once more, binder still open but her hands quivering slightly. She didn't glance his way, only at the judge. "I stayed," she said quietly, "because I was told I was chosen, but the truth was, I was chosen to stay silent." The judge remained unmoved. Christine's fingers flipped another page. The next placard read, 2013, the travel ledger. And with that page, the courtroom braced itself. This was no longer a case. This was an autopsy, not of a marriage, but of a legacy. Christine continued to speak, voice firm now. "This," she displayed a spreadsheet, "is the record I kept of the first Flagstaff negotiations. Cody told me that he would be meeting with investors, real estate agents, and lawyers. But something wasn't quite right. The receipts, the calls not returned, the random charges, they told another story." The judge leaned over as she read the beginning page. "Plane reservations, gas station stops, frequent stays at hotels," Christine continued, unflinching. 3 total trips in 12 months. 6 of them are consistent with the places he told us he was going." She turned the page. "These 2 here. He reported he was going to a zoning committee in Utah, but the hotel booking? Las Vegas, and he was not alone. The courtroom sat on the edge of its seats. Christine placed a printed receipt on the evidence table. 2 adult guests in Cody's name. Robin confronted him, trembling. "What is this, Cody? Who was this with you?" He shook his head quickly. "Business associates, people helping with land title." Christine didn't flinch. "She was a massage therapist," she said coldly. "The receipt was for a couple's spa package." The gallery gasped. The judge's eyes grew cold. "If this were business," Christine asked, "then why did he charge champagne upgrades to the family's emergency credit card?" "Do you have proof?" the judge pressed. Christine flipped the page. "Here is the entire transaction record of our shared account with ending 37/12. The charges, food, travel, spa, total $8,979 within 1 year. The judge's tone turned icy. "Mr. Brown, none of these were recorded in your expense statements," Cody snapped. "They were in my discretionary spend." Christine stood. Her voice thundered in the room. "Discretionary doesn't mean deceit, Cody." Robin's face went white. "You told us those vacations were for the show," she whispered. "You said you were going out to meet producers." Christine studied her. "You weren't the only one who was deceived," she said gently. "We all were." She turned to the judge again. "This wasn't a lost husband. This was a man who used the pretense of family duty to hide his excess." The judge didn't respond. He didn't have to. The truth was spreading and coursing through the courtroom like a shiver. Then Christine uttered the words that dissolved everyone's facade of composure. "One of those trips," she began, "happened the same week I told Cody that I thought I was pregnant." The courtroom halted. Christine's voice trembled but remained unbroken. "I miscarried 3 days later," she said. "He didn't call. He didn't come. 2 weeks later, he called finally." There were gasps in the room. Robin fell back into her chair. Janelle turned away. Mary quietly wept. Christine put the final page of the tab on the table, a shooting schedule. "They shot us the following week," she said in a breath. "We had to smile, pretend we were whole, but I was already broken, and he wasn't even there to put the pieces together." The hush after that wasn't silence in a courtroom, it was grief. Then, slowly, she turned the final tab. 2012, the birth lie about Truly. The air grew unbearable. The judge adjusted his glasses. Cody leaned further back in his chair. Christine didn't need documentation this time. She needed only to speak. "When I went into labor with Truly," she said, "I called Cody 3 times. He didn't answer. His phone was off. He was with Robin." Her words cut like glass. "I was taken into the hospital by my Kelty. 9 hours of labor. He arrived 2 hours after she was born." She stood before the judge, and then he told the cameras something entirely different, that he was with me all along. Christine's face turned icy. "That aired all over the nation, and we were told to smile our way through it." Cody stood up, hands in protest. "I was deceived. You told me the labor was running behind schedule." Christine's poise finally shattered. "I told you I was bleeding," she screamed, finally crying at long last. "I was terrified to death, and you chose her over me, and you made me reshoot the birth scene so that you could turn the entire film into a love story." Her voice was ragged, shattered, but charged with years of restraint bursting into noise. "You erased my trauma," she cried, "so that you could save your image." The judge's tone softened. "Mrs. Brown, do you have proof?" Christine nodded. "Yes, Your Honor." She pulled out a hospital discharge sheet chronicling Truly's time of birth, and Cody's signature, signed hours later. "This proves he wasn't there," she said, "and the production call sheet confirms his on-camera arrival was the next day, staged, under lights." The face of the judge hardened. Cameras flashed once, then stopped. And even Cody did not speak for the first time. Christine's voice dwindled to a whisper. For years, he made the world believe that we were together, she whispered. But behind the camera, we were ghosts in his story. The courtroom was silent, the silence of quiet that comes when truth starts to settle like dust after a storm. The judge studied the paper before him, reading it carefully, and then he raised his eyes. This, he said, his tone sharp but flat, might substantiate testimony for emotional distress and manipulation of reputation for profit. Cody's tone became louder, no longer uncertain, just desperate. It was a crazy time, he stammered. I didn't know how to be two places at once, Robin whispered, bowed head. You said that she did not want you around. Christine spoke to her, her voice soft but laced with pain. He told me you needed him, she said, that you were broken, that I was strong, that I could handle it. But no one ever asked if I wanted to be strong. I just was, because he wasn't. There were tears that filled, not for melodrama, not for sympathy, but for years of restraint finally bursting. Even the judge seemed to swallow hard. Christine caught her breath. And still, I stayed, she said quietly. For the children, for the cameras, for the fantasy. Until I realized the fantasy wasn't ours anymore, it was his. She put the final document on the table, an invoice from TLC. Truly's birth episode generated $186,000, she said. We never received a dime, not Janelle, not Mary, not me. All the funds went into Robin's Production LLC. Cody said it was for taxes, but we never received a report, just excuses. The room fell silent. Cody had no excuse left. Christine shut her binder slowly, respectfully. That's all of it, she breathed. Everything I was told to forget. And then she reached for one last divider, a red tab, blood red. The label read, The Day I Left. Cody's eyes faltered. He remembered. The final segment wasn't mounted with stacks of evidence. One flash drive, one file. Christine filed it with the court clerk in silence. No showmanship, no fanfare. Only the heavy silence of truth waiting to be spoken. This is a voice tape, she said. It's the day I told Cody I was leaving. He did not know I was taping, but I thought I would need proof of what he was actually like. The judge nodded. Permission granted. The courtroom darkened a little as speakers hummed on. A moment of static, then Cody's voice. Then leave, he barked. You're just another angry woman playing the victim. A pause. Walk out then, but crawl back when no one else will have you. Christine's voice was next, shaking but resolute. I'm not angry, she said. I'm finished. Cody's reply was a slap. You were never wife material. You were a glorified babysitter with an attitude. You hung in for the fame, not for me. The room grew cold. Even the bailiff lowered his head. Then the final words. I chose Robin, Cody said, his tone curt and decisive. Because she doesn't resent me. You do. That's not love. That's liability. Christine paused. Her voice was quiet, but it filled the room. That, she stated, is the man behind the cameras, the man who told America we were equal, while composing sentences which denied it. The man who spoke of God's will, while taking his pleasure with one woman. The man who claimed to love us, while calculating the price of our absence. She addressed the judge. I didn't leave because I lost faith in the family, she replied quietly. I left because I came to understand it was never a family. It was a funnel, one that drained us emotionally, spiritually, and financially. Her voice gained force. I've lived every year since high school on his terms. I raised kids while paying his bills. I shot scenes while he built his brand. I stayed silent while he reworked our history. But today, I'm asking for only two things, responsibility and liberty. Christine spoke to Cody, not in anger, but in sharpness. Not just me, she said, for all of us. Cody didn't say anything. He couldn't. The courtroom was silent, altered, no longer shock, but awareness. The fog had cleared. What remained wasn't an unsuccessful marriage. It was the unveiling of decades of control, manipulation, and spiritual decay posing as devotion. The judge leaned forward. "This court will proceed to accelerate asset division as per the evidence laid out," he announced. "Additional hearings will be brought to discuss monetary misbehaviors, emotional abuse, and potential tax fraud in the LLCs discussed in this testimony." Christine nodded once. Then she closed the binder, slowly, methodically, as if closing a part of her life for good. When she rose to her feet, the entire room followed her eyes. Her final words were simple, gentle, and etched in memory. "He told me I was disposable," she said. There was a silence. "But today, I became unequivocal." The judge's gavel came down, one ringing slam. And with that, so did Cody Brown's empire of secrets.